Hello, America, and to our friends around the world, greetings. Welcome back. This is part 4 of chapter 5, What Everybody is Saying, an ex-FBI Agent's Guide to Speed Reading People. We left off with the sub-chapter topic, Arms Akimbo, even if I mistakenly labeled it, the territorial for arms. That was just the final section where he talks about his trip to Calgary and seated next to a man, and they were jockeying over the armrest. But we left off at arms akimbo. One territorial behavior used to assert dominance and project an image of authority is known as arms akimbo. For those of you old enough to remember the 1970s Wonder Woman live action with Linda Carter, the stance that they usually show of her dressed as Wonder Woman with her hands balled as fists on her hips and the elbows pointed out in opposing directions. That's arms akimbo. All right, so this nonverbal behavior involves a person extending both arms out in a V pattern with the hands placed, thumbs backward on the hips. Watch police officers or military personnel in uniform when they are talking to each other. They almost always assume the arms akimbo posture, although this is part of their authoritative training. It doesn't resonate well in the private sector. And the reason this is it's considered a power stance. There's certain stances that, just like with your face, when you make certain faces, it triggers certain emotions and vice versa. This too is certain body positions will generate certain, evoke certain emotional responses, and again, vice versa. Let's see here. So, where were we? Resonate well in the private sector. Military personnel leaving the service to enter the business world would be well advised to soften up that image so they don't come across so authoritatively. All right, before we go too far along, the insert image is arms akimbo, is a powerful territorial display that can be used to establish dominance or to communicate that there are issues. Think of what is it? The viper, the hooded viper. How they, they have that hood that expands, or a cat bristling its tail. These are both images to make themselves appear bigger, thus more threatening to an opposition. And that's what arms akimbo does, is it presents you as a larger target. Therefore, it's meant to increase one's threat meter so that they'll back off. Minimizing arms akimbo can often ameliorate that military bearing that civilians often find disconcerting. For women, arms akimbo may have a particular utility. I have taught women executives that it is a powerful nonverbal display that they can employ when confronting males in the boardroom. Again, referencing the power womanist agenda that hit its stride in the 70s and consequently destroyed society afterward. It is an effective way for anyone, especially a woman, to demonstrate that she is standing her ground, confident, and unwilling to be bullied. Too often, young women enter the workplace and are bullied non-verbally by males, so talking to them with a, yeah, we're way beyond that. Not saying it doesn't happen, but no, we're at a point where a man can get fired for just walking down the same hallway as a woman. So just, men, just wear a body camera. If she's doing arms akimbo, file a harassment complaint. All right, so let's take a look here. Bullied non-verbally by males who insist on talking to them with arms akimbo in a show of territorial dominance. Aping this behavior or using it first can serve to level the playing field for women who may be reluctant to be assertive in other ways. Arms akimbo is a good way of saying that there are issues, things are not good, or I am standing my ground in a territorial display. Morris, 1985, page 195. There is a variant to the traditional arms akimbo, which is usually performed with hands on hips with thumbs facing toward the back, in which the hands are placed on the hips, but the thumbs face forward. All right, so the insert, let me finish the sentence. All right, the sentence is finished. All right, so the image insert is the woman. Look, nobody, the era of the boss babe is in the decline, whether you recognize it or not. All you're going to do is create friction and hostility. I would recommend that this not be used. This book was written, as I said, 10, 15 plus years ago at a different point in time. Right now, men are not putting up with this, and I strongly recommend men file lawsuits for sexual harassment and workplace hostility. So the first one is women tend to use arms akimbo less than men. Note the position of the thumbs in the photograph. In this photo, the arm, and then the second one, in this photo, the arms are akimbo, but note that the thumbs are forward. This is a more inquisitive, less authoritarian position than in the previous photo where the thumbs are back and there are issues position. All right, so take a note of these. And as I said in the previous video, be aware of what message you are signaling, because women, you're going to see a lot more complaints if you're using aggressive body language. And whether it gains traction or not, your companies aren't going to keep you around regardless if they're not making money. They're going to be like, oh, we've got 100 women and we had men that did the work and they all quit because nobody wants to put up with a bad boss bitch. If you're standing in figure 4-1 and figure 41, you're the problem. No ands, ifs, or buts. And I'm here for it. I want these companies sued into oblivion if they're going to cater to women that project bad behavior and hostility. It is often seen when people are inquisitive yet concerned. They may approach a situation with this curious arms akimbo stance, thumbs forward, hands on hips, elbows out, to assess what is going on, and then rotate the hands to thumbs backwards to establish a more dominant stance of concern if necessary. Yeah. Um, yeah, good luck with that. The days of that are over. And going back to was it a cobra, an asp? I can't remember what kind of snake it is, but the next subtopic chapter is hooding effect. Another territorial display similar to arms akimbo can often be seen during business meetings and other seated social encounters when a person leans back and interlaces his hands behind his head. And that's the insert we have here. Reads, figure 4-3. Interlaced hands behind the head are indicative of a comfort and dominance. Usually the senior person at a meeting will pose or hood his way. Let's see. I spoke to a cultural anthropologist about this behavior, and we both concluded that it is reminiscent of the way in which a cobra hoods to alert other animals of his dominance and power. This hooding effect makes us larger than life and tells others, I am in charge here. There is also a pecking order to this and other dominance displays. For instance, while waiting for a meeting to begin, the office supervisor may assume the interlaced hands behind the head, elbows out display. However, when the boss comes into the room, this territorial hooding display will stop. Claiming territory is for those of high status or those in charge. Thus, it is the boss's right to assume this behavior while everyone else will be expected to bring their hands down to the table in an appropriate show of deference. All right, next is the subtopic chapter, dominant pose. Often individuals will use their arms to simultaneously emphasize a point and claim territory. This happens frequently during interactions where people are in disagreement over an issue. I recall a recent incident during a layover in New York wherein a hotel guest approached the front desk with his arms close to his body and asked the clerk on duty for a favor. Remember, your arms are in tight. You're protecting your torso. Think of a boxing match. What does a boxer do when the opponent is pummeling them? They bring their arms in tight and protect their head, neck, and torso, and they shrink, in a turtling type of a thing, display to protect themselves. All right, so when the favor was rejected, the guest shifted his request to a demand and his arms shifted as well. All right, so the guest approached the front desk in a protective, meek, you know, defensive position, and then when it was denied, put on a more powered, authoritative stance. And let's see what they did here to demonstrate that. I'm guessing feet were moved apart and arms were widened out a bit. When the favor was rejected, the guest shifted his request to a demand and his arms shifted as well, spreading farther and farther apart, claiming more and more territory as the conversation became increasingly heated. This arm spread behavior is a powerful limbic response employed to establish dominance and emphasize a person's point of view. As a general rule, the meek will pull in their arms, the strong, powerful, or indignant will spread them out to claim more territory. Remember, watch videos online of police encounters uh, with those that they encounter who become violent, how they will flail their arms out to get the blood flowing out to their fingertips and hands. And, you know, you'll see a lot of these demonstrations, but do be advised, some of them are graphic. So it's not, if you're offended by graphic, violent nature, don't watch it. And we've got the figure 4-4, figure 44. Fingertips planted, spread apart on a surface are a significant territorial display of confidence and authority. This is the physiological domination of space, as in the previous video, I described the high school student or college student who has the table dominated with their notebooks, books, backpack, and whatnot to keep others from coming in and invading. So, how one increases their size and their territorial claim will always be subjective. It will be there, but it will be either done with physical objects or physiological ability. As a general rule, the meek will pull in their arms, the strong, powerful, or indignant will spread them out to claim more territory. In business meetings, a speaker who takes and maintains a large territorial footprint is likely very confident about what is being discussed. Spread out arms is one of those nonverbals with high accuracy because it is limbic in origin and proclaims, I am confident. Conversely, note how quickly someone who has splayed out over several chairs will withdraw his arms when questioned about something that makes him feel uncomfortable. The insert, or the image rather, figure image 4-5, figure 45, arms spread out over chairs tell the world you are feeling confident and comfortable. So keep that in mind when you're interacting with other people. All right, so box insert 3-2, box insert 32, spreading arms should spread alarms. Several years ago, I was involved in training American Airlines security personnel overseas. One of the employees pointed out to me that ticket agents can often identify passengers who will become problematic by how wide they position their arms when they are at the counter. From that day forward, I have looked for this behavior and have witnessed it countless times during confrontations. I was at the airport, yes, once again, when I overheard a passenger being told of a new regulation that required him to pay a surcharge for his overweight luggage. Immediately, as if on cue, this man splayed his arms so far apart on the counter that it actually forced him to bend at the waist. During the argument that ensued, the airline employee stepped back and crossed his arms in front of his chest and informed the passenger that unless he cooperated and calmed down, he wouldn't be allowed on the airplane. Incidentally, it's not every day one gets to see two remarkable arm behaviors all at once in what became an arm wrestling match at a distance. Yeah, a real life version of a virtual arm wrestling match. Um, yeah, you're at the mercy of the airline. And, you know, I've made my comments about being irritated with airline travel. And, I try to avoid it. I prefer driving. I would rather fly myself. I mean, renting an airplane isn't cheap, but, even with VFR skills, you know, you're going to be able to be fine as long as you can find it. Even on a slightly cloudy day, all you have to do is find that pocket of blue and fly through it and get above the clouds, and you're still back. Then you're back in VFR. You just need to make sure your navigation skills are good enough because you're not going to have any dead reckoning land references to go by. All right, so box insert 31, box insert 31, the wrong arms of the law. People who question the power of nonverbals to affect the behaviors of others might want to consider what happens when police use the arms akimbo display at the wrong times. There are situations when using it can not only destroy police officers' effectiveness, but also endanger their lives. Subconsciously, arms akimbo is a powerful display of authority. Uh, where do I do that? And dominance, as well as a claim to territory. During a domestic dispute, if a police officer performs this display, it tends to exacerbate the feelings of those in the house and may escalate the situation. This is particularly true if the officer exhibits this posture in a doorway, blocking the exit of the homeowners. Territorial displays such as arms akimbo arouse passions since every man's home is his castle, and no king wants an outsider controlling his space. In fact, there was, I believe, within the last 6 months, so this is May 2025, uh, I believe sometime between November of 2024 to the present, there was a viral clip of I believe, a sheriff's deputy having invaded somebody's home and refusing to leave and causing a ruckus. Anyway, in my opinion, the officer exceeded his authority and not only needs to be fired, but needs to be prosecuted and jailed for at least 6 months for, exceeding that. I mean, when you're entrusted, if you are a government agent, whether you're a representative, elected, a bureaucrat, a direct hire, a contractor, any contact you have with the government that you are able to express the government's quote unquote will, you're imbued with a certain level of authority and trust. And if that's ever done incorrectly, you need to be prosecuted and criminalized for it. Maybe not felony, but misdemeanor at least. Another potentially dangerous situation relating to the use of the arms akimbo display involves young police officers who are taken off of their regular patrol duties to work undercover. When these undercover neophytes enter an establishment for the first time, such as a bar they are attempting to infiltrate, they may stand with arms akimbo. While this is something they are accustomed to doing, they have not earned the right to engage in such an authoritarian or territorial display among those they don't know. I can attest to this a little bit. Um, my gun belt sat in such a way that I was able to rest my hand on the butt of the pistol, and it made an easy, at least half akimbo stance. And after I stopped wearing a gun belt and did more, when I had more concealed carry issues, um, you definitely, yeah, you don't, yeah, you get over that rapidly because you're just advertising that that you have it. All right, so while this is something that they are accustomed to doing, they have not earned the right to engage in such an authoritarian or territorial display among those they don't know. They advertise inadvertently that they are cops or the heat. Interviews with numerous criminals have revealed that this territorial arm display is one of the things they look for in trying to make identifying undercover officers. Except for those in authority, most civilians rarely stand with arms akimbo. I always remind training officers and supervisors to be aware of this and make sure that undercover officers are broken of this habit so that they do not give away who they are and place their lives in peril. All right, at this point, I've made a lot of references to being able to find videos online of real people encountering real situations. So take note of this and start, uh, you know, download the videos and put it on VLC player and slow it down and take notes of the timestamps of the various either facial expressions that you're starting to recognize at this point. I mean, we're in the middle, nearing the end of chapter 5, and at this point, you should have enough skills between the behavioral table of elements and these 4.5 chapters or 5.5 chapters that, yeah, I guess it's 4.5 chapters, uh, that you should be able to start noticing these things. And a good way to train yourself is by taking these online videos of real interactions. In addition to that, you're going to start being able to recognize scripted, click clout, as I like to call it, videos that are just done either for amusement or just to gin up emotional responses. We'll come back to the subtopic chapter of dominant pose.